We love the outdoors, and that's why we're using technology and innovation to pursue freedom and adventure. Freedom in the outdoors is becoming more scarce every day. What you could do 100 years ago, you can't do anymore. So we've been building bush planes for the Alaskan wilderness, hunting, fishing, and trying to fill properties in the Texas Panhandle with quail and pheasant. Our mission is to develop the ultimate bush plane that gives you the freedom to travel the world and experience true exploration and adventure. So this video is a glimpse of a project that we started working on to get some birds, something I'm very interested in, and Tracy was too, on a piece of property of his down in kind of the central Panhandle. It turned into birds and pheasant, and it kind of came out of nowhere, but we got to thinking, you know, this was shaping up to be a year that should work for it. So the goal is to greatly multiply the quail numbers and introduce pheasant. We also want to really aggressively shake up the genetics. So genetic isolation is, I think, something that's really overlooked in quail populations, especially with Texas having so much private land. I think it's really overlooked by the scientific community. One of the things that really made me, hey, we should try and do this like now, was Tracy's place was completely set up to do this. You couldn't get more ideal. He had feeder systems out everywhere for quail, and I've never personally seen, maybe I haven't been around enough, guys that have a lot of supplemental feeders for things like quail, that it really enhances the quail population over nearby areas that don't have anything like that. And I think maybe that's why the scientific community tends to poo-poo that a little bit. However, I believe that it's, in terms of reproduction, everything that introduced birds struggle with, and the reason people have a difficult time getting reintroduced birds to actually work, is a twofold thing. The biggest one being reproduction, and that's the one that's overlooked. For instance, even on a scientific project, they'll put quail into an area where they used to be and they used to thrive, but now maybe weather patterns have changed or whatever, but no one seems to address the fact that you cannot get those eggs to reproduce with a decent hatch rate with that kind of humidity. And while upland birds especially, and some quail, not all of them, have the instincts or methods available to them to increase the humidity of their eggs, very few birds can decrease the humidity of their eggs. And so when you have a relative humidity that's 80 to 90%, that would never work in an incubator, and it doesn't work too well in the wild. So this property was all set up. We just had to move some feeders around, but he already had all the infrastructure. And so we added some waterers, and then we built these surrogators, which is something I'd seen done in Kansas, and completely against the scientific community's findings, if you will. I'd seen it work with great success, but we built these surrogators, and it was kind of a pain. Sean and Kyler welded up these frames that I designed in CAD, and they followed it perfectly, so it was very easy. I had very little finish welding to do to get the accoutrements and everything we needed for the surrogators. After we'd built, I think, 6 of them, we bought a couple of surrogators from a company in Oklahoma. I'm not really wild about theirs, but I think it was good that we built our own before we got a look at theirs. When you have to do something from scratch and you have to innovate, you know, you tend to focus a little bit more rather than replicating somebody's already done. You really need to think about, what do I need this thing to do? And sometimes you can come up with something better. I think we absolutely did, but either way, I think theirs are going to work. So we wound up taking the 2 we'd bought, and we're using them as well. So we had 10 of these surrogators. 8 of them we built. They were quite a pain, but really neat to build. We're a little over halfway through this project. Turned out about 600 quail, and we'll probably do another 600 or 700 on 200 acres. We're running a separate project on a piece of ground up in the northern Panhandle, and we're doing introduction of species on that. So that's pheasant, and then we're experimenting with valley quail. But it's a small 100-acre tract. We're using that piece of property to kind of monitor and see just truly how effective our release efforts are. So far from what we've seen, we've had no perceptible mortality. The birds have ranged very well. They've integrated with the wild populations on the quail. They've been out about a month now, so we're already better than what we were prepared to see. Most of the studies you read on quail releases into the wild, you have a roughly 80% mortality, some say a 75% in the first 2 weeks. So, I mean, we smoked that. The biggest challenge, I've seen surrogators, the ones from WMT, they use propane. And for a lot of reasons that I'm not going to go into, I wanted no part of that. So I've done a lot with solar anyways. We've come up with the aircraft with some pretty good rock steady solar system that I thought would work great for this. So we just integrated that, and it prevents you from working with propane and having all that mess, and is much more reliable. So worked great. We were a little light on the solar requirements. You need about 10% of your load to be your rated panel capacity. So whatever your load is, you want to keep that around 10%. And then even on a raining, overcast day, you can harness all the power you need to get those chicks through the night. So the other thing we did is we used brood heat instead of any type of convective or radiant heaters, because that's extremely inefficient for one, and it was a lot more natural. So you got to understand, if you're going to take on the role of surrogating these birds, you're going to teach them everything that you think they need to know, but it's got to be what they actually need to know. You definitely do predator control. Haven't had a lot of time for that, but we put a pretty good dent in them. You just have to be conscious about it and make an effort. Your number one target's probably coons. As things get colder, it'll be coyotes. Coyotes bother them a lot more than the biologists would have you to believe. They, in fact, sometimes will say predators have no meaningful impact, is what I was taught. It's a load of garbage. There's a couple of studies out of Kansas where they released quail and tagged young quail, and 84% of the one in Kansas, the mortality was due to predators. So we just kind of took all of our insights that I'd kind of gleaned from some of the stuff I've done on my own property and thought, well, let's just see if we can carry that out there. So far it's working great, and we changed our timetables a little bit based on what I've seen in raising quail. You're essentially releasing chicks. You're releasing them before they would even, in conventional game bird farms, go to flight pens by a week or two. So we'll see what happens.
Those birds can fly.